Hi, everyone, and welcome to Business Masters Live. Today's interview is sponsored by Christian Bonnier's book, One Connection Away: How to Leverage the Incredible Power of Networking, helping business people with how to build a professional network, nurture business relationships, and really change your life, and other important topics around professional networking. Highly encourage you to check out Christian's book, One Connection Away, for more. The title of today's interview is The Beginner's Guide for How to Get Started with Professional Networking. My name's Martin Meisenheimer, and today I'm talking with professional networking expert Christian Bonnier about how every introverted entrepreneur can get started on the right track with professional networking and obtain the very best results. Welcome, Christian Bonnier.
Awesome, Martin. Thank you so much for having me. Super
It's
excited to be here today.
I'm honored to have you. I think this is a very important topic, and so many people will really benefit from what you have to share. Having read your book, I know that you're going to bring great value. So, Christian is an expert on professional networking. He's done it just by, getting out there and kind of getting your jersey dirty, so to speak. And he's graciously consented to this interview today to share with us sort of a beginner's guide in this area, so every introverted entrepreneur can understand how to get started and how to build a powerful professional network and nurture business relationships and possibly even, dare I say, change your life. So Christian Bonnier, thank you again for joining us on this live interview, and let's jump right in.
Awesome, Martin.
All right, so
Thank you. So my name is Christian. I'm a junior at Binghamton University. Yeah, I'm actually still in college, which might be hard to believe, but I'm a junior at Binghamton University in upstate New York. I'm a co-founder of a company called Knowledge X. It's a very new digital media agency that focuses on helping people build online course programs. And then I am the author of my very own book, One Connection Away. I would say, freshman year, I started a podcast actually, just like Martin's hosting here now. It was focused actually on entirely on networking and interviewing high level entrepreneurs. So Andre and I were freshmen in college at the time. My co-host, we were 18-year-olds, had no clue what we were doing, but we started reaching out to people on social media via email and things like that. And to our surprise, a lot of people were actually, reaching back out to us. We're like, we're 18-year-old college students with no professional experience or background. Why the hell would people want to talk to us? So pretty quickly, we realized that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your age is, or what kind of experience you have. If you put yourself out there enough times, you're going to get a response from some people. And the level of success that some people had that were reaching back out to us was eye-opening to us, because we figured, these people with all the success and so little time on their hands would never want to reach back out to us. But, you'll find that if you just are willing to put yourself out there on a regular basis, that people will want to have conversations with you if you're interested enough. Because if you lead with your genuine interest and ambition to talk to people, you're going to get a response. And it's going to be, at least for me, it was life-changing, because the podcast was, a year and a half of just constant learning and networking. And that led Andre and I to start our very own business today. So I credit my podcast for everything that's, been coming my way lately, with all of the professional success in my book and everything like that. So my main avenue of networking was the podcast, but there's a ton of other ways to do it, and I'm happy to dig deeper into that with you guys today.
excellent. Well, it's really inspirational because I think that at any age and at any step in one's career, many people struggle with just taking those initial steps. Sometimes, mindset can get in the way, and fears of, rejection, and you start running all these what if scenarios of like, I can't reach out and ask this person to connect with me or have a conversation with me or be on my podcast because they are such and such and I'm just this. And did you have any of that going on in your head, or are you two guys just like immune to this kind of thing? Because you just, one of the things I was most impressed with when I interviewed Andre was just kind of like, yeah, we get this idea and then we just do it, kind of like no
Yep.
holds barred. We're just going to go for it and we'll see what happens. Is
Yeah.
that your approach?
Like I said, we were surprised to have people respond to us, but we weren't hesitant to reach out. So we didn't, Especially today in the age of social media and things like that. I think it's easier than ever to reach out to people. Like the worst that's going to happen is they don't get back to you, or they simply say I'm too busy. So we set a goal initially to send like 25 cold emails or direct messages a day to invite people onto our show. And I think a big reason why a lot of people answered was because we had an excuse for them to answer back via the podcast. So a big tip that I would have, if you are looking to network and you're a bit scared to put yourself out there, give people a reason to answer you. Don't just say, hey, so and so, I would love to have a conversation. Maybe direct it more towards a podcast or learning something, or kind of a something that just gives the person a reason to answer back. So for us, we would say, hey, we're 18-year-old college students. We know that we're young, but we're ambitious, and we have a podcast we'd love to interview you on. Would you like to come on? It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I took away from your book that I really love is you emphasize bringing value, you know, and here you guys you were just getting started, just launching this podcast, but that in and of itself was something that you could offer to someone, and maybe you're just getting started off, you don't have a huge audience yet, but the perception of value was there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were
and
we were giving these people a stage to speak their mind and tell their story, and people love to talk about themselves. You'll find that out pretty quickly as you start networking. If you kind of lead people on with, what's their story, why should I be interested in talking to you? They're gonna be able to go on for minutes and even hours if they want to.
everyone loves talking about their favorite subject, right?
Yeah,
Themselves. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So you get started by getting on LinkedIn and putting out, connection requests and seeing what comes back to you and inviting people to the podcast. Um, so for someone who's never done any of this before, what would you say would be the very first for a beginner to get started networking, whether it's online, offline, or a combination?
Yeah, I would say do it with a purpose. So first of all, identify, where you are in your career or your life right now. See where you want to be going, and then try to find people that are in the position that you want to be in someday. So for example, if you're, majoring in, let's say, accounting, I would say reach out to any CPA you can find, any CEO of an accounting company you can find, anyone that's working at a firm that you're interested in, and just reach out and say, hey, my name's so and so. I'm really ambitious to work in accounting for my career. I'm just trying to learn more about, what goes on in the world of accounting. And then even say, I'd love to invite you to a 15-minute phone call, or if you're close by, you could ask them to meet up in person, and then, buy their coffee and then have a good conversation. So
Hmm.
definitely lead with a purpose. Don't just reach out to anyone you can find. I would definitely say, like I said, make sure if you know what you want to do with your career, talk to someone that's in that position currently.
Hmm. That makes sense. And what would you say is the best website, app, tool? Is it best to reach out through LinkedIn, or if you get someone's email, do you go direct, or is that a little bit too much too soon, or what do you think?
I would recommend LinkedIn for strictly professional, like accounting and those kind of career paths, because there's, LinkedIn's flooded with all kinds of, corporate professionals. But if you want to go towards the route of, let's say influencer, content creator, entrepreneur, Instagram's a really good tool, because a lot of entrepreneurs are growing personal brands on Instagram, and they're definitely going to be really active on there if you want to reach out to them via DM. I like to say a good rule of thumb is if you send 10 DMs and one person answers, you're doing great, because even if, 9 people don't answer, that one person's deciding to give you their time, and that's more than you can ever ask for.
Hmm.
As for email, I mean, a lot of Instagram and LinkedIn bios do provide an email. We've done email in the past. It takes a little bit longer just because, a DM is one click and you can start typing. But with an email, you have to enter in the email and, subject line and write a message. But it definitely is effective if you're really dedicated to networking, because people do check DMs more frequently than email, I would say. But if a DM doesn't work, it never hurts to follow up with an email, just saying, hey, so and so, I don't know if you saw my DM, but I'm really interested in talking to you. And then that could be the thing that puts you over the edge, because they see how ambitious you are.
Hmm. That makes sense. And you stress that this doesn't need to take up a big chunk of time. That you're very efficient about how you go about this, and I think that's really important, because someone who maybe is hesitant, they're going to look for reasons not to take action, and
Right.
that could become a roadblock if they, in their mind, they create this big if they magnify the task at hand and think that they need to spend a lot of time on it. But you say that's not so, huh?
Absolutely. When the podcast was really taking off, Andre and I, my co-host, we were making it, more of an issue for us to reach out. So we were doing 50 to 100 DMs a day, and that would take maybe 30 minutes total. So if you start out with 10 DMs a day, find 10 people on either Instagram or LinkedIn and just say, hey, I would love to connect and learn more about XYZ, because like I said, networking with a purpose is important. It'll take, I would say, at most 10 to 15 minutes of your time each day. So if you wake up in the morning and say, I need to send 10 messages today to hit my goal, take 10 minutes or 15 minutes of your time during a lunch break or during some downtime and just get it done. It's really not it's not that time consuming.
Gotcha. All right. So that's the first step is reaching out to people and making that a habit. And then what's next after that?
Right. So luckily for us, we had a podcast. So if someone answered, it was pretty simple. The next step would be book a call on our calendar and let's have a real conversation, long form conversation over video. But if you're just networking just for the purpose of learning more, trying to expand your network, I would say lead with interest in what they're doing or try to get them on the phone. So if you're really interested in what they're doing, let's say, go back to the accounting example, and they answer, just say, say they're working at a firm or they're the owner of a firm, just say, what steps did you take when you were my age to get to where you are today? What are some really key things to look at when I'm applying for a job or something like that? And then maybe even end with, would you like to book a quick phone call with me? I would love to talk to you over the phone. Just kind of keep it casual, because I know it's, it's a professional conversation, but you can still keep it like human interaction. You don't have to be all super professional with what you're doing. So
yeah, gotcha. And I like that about your approach, that you're not trying to come off as super polished, and it really is casual and like you're hanging out with someone having a cup of coffee. And it makes your podcast very
100%. And then I always absolutely. Yeah. And I always say, like I said before, try to provide value in some way. So maybe if the person's kind enough to answer a few questions for you about what you want to do with your career, end off by saying, is there anything I can do for you? Can I promote any of the things that you're working on right now? Is there someone I can help you get connected with? And then from there, it generates a really trust-based relationship that can go a long way.
Okay, got it. So you've got some really interesting stories in your book of people that you've met and really amazing experiences that you've been able to have as a result of the networking that you've done. Can you share with us one that really stands out as just over the top incredible, that you maybe a year ago or 2 years ago never in your wildest dreams kind of thing?
Yeah. I'll go with the professional one. So I'm sure a lot of you know Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's like a world-renowned entrepreneur and influencer and speaker. He's, incredibly hard to get in touch with. He costs a ton of money to just, get a few minutes of his time, unless you're lucky enough to bump into him in public. But I actually met someone named Josh, my good friend Josh Ordonez. He's from California, and it was actually via podcast outreach. So he was the social media manager for a popular sneaker customizer at the time. And we reached out to this sneaker customizer / influencer looking for an interview. And he said, DM my social media manager and we'll get it booked. And I DM'd the manager, who turned out to be one of my good friends, Josh. And he said, his name, the influencer's name was Kix. So we'll say, Kix isn't free for an interview now, but I'd love you guys to do me. And we thought, okay, this kid's like 18 to 20 years old. He's still in college. Like, no, it couldn't hurt though. So we interviewed him. It was a good conversation, and we're like, okay, great. Nice to meet you, Josh. Hope we can stay in touch. And then I followed up a few months later, and Josh was like, hey, dude, guess what? I'm coming to work for VaynerMedia in New York City at the Empathy Wines division, his wine company, Gary's wine company. So we're like, no way. So he went from California, where we probably would never get to meet up with him face to face, to New York City, which is around 2 to 3 hours outside of where we are, in school. So we're like, all right, once you get there and get settled in, let's reconnect again. So then that May, which was May of 2019 last year, Josh reached out and said, hey man, if you guys are free this weekend, I'd love for you guys to come down. We could do another interview about what I've done since we talked last, and then we could enjoy a day in the city. So great. Me and Andre drove to New York City, And when we got there, we thought we were just gonna, interview Josh in his apartment or a coffee shop, but he actually took us to VaynerMedia and gave us a whole tour of VaynerMedia in Hudson Yards, which is Gary's like headquarters, his main office, which was incredible. Just to see all of the, the memorabilia and the artwork around the shop or the office was just insane. And then we got to interview Josh in Gary's personal office. So
Wow.
A place where Gary has interviewed, Tony Robbins, athletes, celebrities, influencers, famous people. And we got to sit at that same exact table and interview Josh. So it all started by, us giving Josh the time to, when we first met Josh, it wasn't what can he do for us? It's like, okay, let's just interview him and see what can happen. And then that turned into a real friendship. And then it turned into an insane day in Manhattan and at VaynerMedia. So always give another thing is even if, you're going to be focused a lot on doing outreach yourself, but if someone reaches out to you, just give them the time because, if you were in their situation, you'd want to give them your time. So,
yeah. And that's a theme running through your book too, is respect, right?
yep.
Always, you don't know, you don't prejudge anybody. You don't dictate how you're going to respond to someone based on, where they are in their career or what they've accomplished in their life. You really treat everyone as if, they have something of value and you want to bring something of value to them, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Josh is the perfect example of this. You never know who you're talking to and where they're going to be someday. So even though when we first met Josh, he was, just another college student, just doing some social media management for an influencer, he turned out to be our way into VaynerMedia and one of my favorite experiences of all time. So if we didn't acknowledge Josh that day and just said, we can't get the guy that you're working for, we don't want to talk to you, like, we'll see you later, we would never have had that experience. So that's a perfect real world example of giving everybody your time, regardless of if you think they deserve it or not, because you should always think they deserve it.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson for sure. And I love that one. So you also, I remember in reading about your experience having a steak dinner with Gronk, Rob Gronkowski,
that
if
one
you're
was
not a
awesome.
football fan.
Yeah, so Andre actually reached out to this local business owner, Adam Weitzman. He's a really successful scrap metal entrepreneur / business owner. And Adam actually let us drive out to his office, which is only 40 minutes outside of where we are right now, and interview him in person. So that was one of our first ever interviews, actually. And it was, not the best. We were using terrible recording software and cheap headsets, but it was the connection that mattered because Adam said that, like I said, if he was in our position, he would want someone to say yes to him. So even though he really doesn't like doing interviews, he agreed to do it with us. And, the content of the interview didn't matter as much as us actually going out and talking to him face to face because it was the beginning of a great relationship. We noticed that he was good friends with the Syracuse men's basketball coach at the time. And of course, we didn't just come out and say, "Hey, can we, go to the game on you? Can you get us tickets?" That's just not what you want to do in a relationship. So we kind of said, we know that. Well, we texted him and we said, "Hey, where can we get a good deal on some tickets for this big game coming up?" And we didn't expect him to do this, but he responded with 2 PDF tickets to the game. So
Wow.
he hooked us up with 2 free tickets to a sold out basketball game. Incredible tickets that were like 10 rows behind the court, like sold out tickets that you couldn't otherwise get.
Wow.
So the day of the game, we called him again, once again, not expecting anything. And we said, is there anywhere we should meet up before? We want to thank you for getting us these tickets and, talk for a second. And he goes, "Hey, yeah, you're on the guest list for a steak dinner after the game." We're like, "Oh my God, that's insane." Like, first of all, that's insane.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and says, "Are you an NFL fan?" We're like, "Oh, of course." He's like, "Oh, well, Rob Gronkowski's going to be there with us tonight." And we're like, we were on the phone, so he couldn't see us, but we were like, no, thank you so much, Adam. Have a good one. Then we hung up. We were freaking out.
Of course. Man, that would be going nuts. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's like I said, we didn't come in, we didn't expect him to get us tickets to the game. We didn't expect us to invite him to a dinner. We didn't expect to meet Rob Gronkowski. It's just what happens when, you network with genuine people and they're nice enough to return the favor because, we provided value to him. Well, we hope that in the people that we interview's eyes that we're providing value by having them on the show. But, to them, it's like, oh, these kids were generous enough to want me on their show. Now I'm going to repay them with one of the best experiences I've ever had once again. So.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really the the lesson there is just being genuinely interested in other people and interested in helping them and bringing value. And that's really the name of the game. People often you know struggle in their business and wonder why it's not happening for them, but that really seems to be the secret there. Is how do you add more value to the marketplace? How do you help people with things that they're struggling with or problems that they're having? That's the name of the game. That's what very successful entrepreneurs do
Right.
over and over and over again, right? And
Yep.
I'm sure that's what you're learning as you're picking the brains of all these highly successful entrepreneurs. So on that, what would you say are the biggest, 1, 2, or 3 takeaways that you've gotten from some of the most successful people that you've had the pleasure to interview now?
Yep. I would say number one is have a mentor. A lot of people that we've interviewed have said, they learned a lot of what they know today from someone who already, had what they wanted. So like I said, if you network with a purpose and talk to people that are in positions that you want to be in, they're going to deliver more than enough knowledge for you to get started. I would say two, be patient. You know, People don't become successful in a month, 2 months, a year, sometimes even 5 years. Like Gary Vaynerchuk says it best, like be patient. Even if you're 40 years old, you still have so much game left to play.
Hmm.
And even if you don't succeed at first, it's coming, because the only entrepreneurs that fail are the ones that give up. So if there's a will, there's a way. And if you're resourceful enough, you'll find a way eventually. The third thing is, don't run away from failure, kind of along the lines of, you're not going to succeed at first, but a lot of the people we've talked to have also said, I've failed plenty of times. I've lost everything. I've lost all my money. Some of the most astounding stories that we've heard have been, I got really rich, I lost it all, and then I found a better purpose in myself and a better understanding of my own self, and I'm back to where I was before and then some, and now I'm doing it with gratitude and respect for others. So even if you fail, failure is probably the best lesson you're ever going to have, because you'll never repeat a mistake twice, hopefully, and you'll learn how to overcome what you got tripped up on the first time.
Yeah, that's powerful. Would you say that that's really the key, is that mindset? Is that above all
Oh
else?
yeah,
It's having that mindset. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we knew we were 18-year-old college students running a podcast, and that didn't, even though we were talking to some high level people, we didn't shy away from asking them real questions or trying to build real relationships with them. We knew we were young, but we knew that we were able to, provide value on the episode and deliver good content. So it's really all
Hmm.
about believing in yourself. I mean, a lot of businesses today, if you don't believe in what you're doing, how are you going to sell somebody else on it? So
Right. Gotcha. Would you think that for someone just getting started today, is it easier than in the past, or harder, or what? How does that play in
for networking or starting a
for
business?
someone getting started networking
Okay. I would
nowadays?
definitely say it's easier, because like I said, if you're scared of talking in person, social media is a great way to get yourself out there. You could meet 10 to, let's say you could make real relationships with 10 high level accounting people. And chances are, if you want to be an accountant one day and the time comes around that you have to start interviewing for jobs, you're going to be able to reach out to them and say, hey, I just graduated. I know we've been talking a lot over the past few months or a year. Is there anything, another really good way to frame it is, don't say, can you interview me for a job? No, don't say that. Say, kind of like what I said with Adam, like, do you have a way to get, a good deal on tickets to this game? Say, I'm looking for a job in accounting. Is there any way that I could be connected with someone that in hopes of getting an internship or a job? Because then they're going to know, one, you're ambitious. Two, they're going to trust you because you've had this relationship for such a long time. And then three, you're very likely going to, introduce you to Steve or whatever his name is, that has been looking for a new auditing position, and you're going to get the interview and hopefully the job.
Mm.
Because another powerful thing is the power of referrals. So if you get referred to a high level executive by another high level executive, they're going to know that you're, worthy of their time and a good fit for their company, because their trusted friend and colleague recommended you. So
Yeah, I like the way you look at the power of referrals, and also you talk about in your book degrees of separation, and how from networking, even sometimes you're not even aware that you just spoke with someone who's connected to someone
yep,
at a very high level, and now you're within one connection of that person. How have you seen that play out for the two of you so far?
Yeah, a few examples. I mean, we interviewed this guy Eric Damier. He's like he runs several Instagram pages, and he makes like a living off of it based on ad revenue and things like that. And he on the call, he's like, "Yeah, like I text Elon Musk on a regular basis," and we're like, "Wait a second, what?" So coming in, we had no clue that he knew Elon Musk. But now, let's say we still talk to Eric on occasion, but not like really close. But let's say we were really close with Eric, and he invited us out to a retreat or a networking event or a dinner. You know, there's a small chance, but it's not like a completely unrealistic thing to say that Elon Musk could also be there. So
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty exciting just to think about anyway.
yeah,
Why not? Well, this has just been really full of golden nuggets of strong, wonderful advice, really helpful. Is there anything, Christian, that I haven't asked you yet that you would share about getting started in professional networking that you'd like to share with the audience?
I like to talk about, I like online networking, but I think taking a relationship offline in person is the name of the game.
Yeah,
So like I said, getting on the phone with them is the next step. Providing free value to them is a good step, but the ultimate goal of networking online is to take it offline in person. So I think, knowing how to speak to someone face to face in person is important. And it's a lot of common sense things, but I think it's a lot of things that people tend to overlook today, like, good eye contact, good body posture, not pacing around, not going on your phone when you're speaking to someone. Because even if they trust you online and you've built a good relationship, if you come in person and you're disrespectful and you come off as, rude or arrogant, they're not going to want to come back and hang out with you anymore. So I think it's really key to have a good face-to-face conversation with someone, because that's at the end of the day how you're going to actually build the lifelong relationship with someone.
makes sense. Absolutely. So before we say goodbye, I do want to give an opportunity for you to mention. I'm seeing if I can bring up an image of your book here. I know I put it. I wanted to let you tell us a little bit more about your book while I find the. Here it is. One connection away.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I actually started this book as a sophomore in college. A mentor of mine told me that I needed to write a book, and I thought he was crazy, but he kept telling me to do so. So I finally took him up on it, and it took me, I don't know, I want to say 6 months to 9 months to write the book. It was a great experience. I actually learned a lot about myself in the meantime, but I provide a lot of knowledge and value about, how to network online, how to network in person, the power of networking and how to leverage it. Some experiences that I've had. It's just. I think it's a great way to learn more about the topic of networking. I give actionable advice on how to actually start, like we've been discussing this whole time, networking. And then I provide some real world examples of what I've been through to, show what's possible and show you that even if you don't, meet anyone impactful at first, it's, if you just keep networking day in and day out and stay persistent with it, you're going to make some life changing connections. I can promise you that.
That's excellent, and I can vouch to those in the audience. It is a good read. It's really got value in it, and I know that you'll take away a lot from it. Also, want to flash up your podcast and give yourself a little plug. Tell us what do you focus on? Who do you try to talk to in these interviews on your podcast mostly?
Yeah, wow. So actually, we haven't released an episode recently, but we have a ton of episodes in the vault that you guys can go check out. Real Talk University. We aim to interview entrepreneurs to educate our college-based audience on how to start a career outside of the classroom. So it's aimed at college-age students, but I think there's a lot of real value in there in that we go after interviewing a lot of high-level digital entrepreneurs, high-level business owners. We've even interviewed, I think, 3 people that are worth like over $1 billion based on the companies that they've started. So if you've ever wanted to learn more about how to start and scale your own company, or mindset around business, networking, I think this is a great tool for you guys if you want to learn more about that.
Fantastic. Well, again, Christian, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, and thanks to all the introverted entrepreneurs out in the audience for joining us for this amazing beginner's guide presentation about professional networking to help you get off to the right start. And again, I'm Martin Meisenheimer. Thanks for joining us on the Business Masters Live. Christian, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate all the wisdom and insight. And until next time, have a great day.